Hello, welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I wonder who is a better actor, Nicolas Cage or Johnny Cage?
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss Bringing Out the Dead. Released in 1999, based on the novel by Joe Connolly, a screenplay by Paul Schrader, and directed by Martin Scorsese. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows Frank Pierce, played by Nicolas Cage. Frank is a burnt-out New York paramedic, and he's come to the end of his tether. He hasn't saved a life in a couple of months. But after a brief meeting with Patricia Arquette and some colourful characters in his day-to-day work, Frank might actually find himself saving himself.
Frank! Are you okay? I've never felt better in my life. How are you?
You know, Martin Scorsese is, without a doubt, one of our generation's greatest directors.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And going into this, he brought in Paul Schrader, who had also wrote the script for Taxi Driver. And he was like, if I'm going to be making a movie,
yeah,
I'm going to want the same guy that knows New York and New York at nighttime.
Yeah.
And bring in this writer. And he also spent time with Nicolas Cage with nighttime paramedics in New York just to get a flavor and a feel for exactly how they behaved, and to understand that it was, you know, like a graveyard shift, like it was, you know, that they were going to see humanity at its darkest and its weakest during this. And then, of course, taking all of that inspiration and that story from the novel, and it is, you know, almost a very accurate adaptation.
Yeah.
And sadly, when this film came out, I think this was the only Scorsese film in the 90s that did not receive any sort of Oscar nominations.
Yeah.
You know, the critics kind of snubbed it. It didn't really find its audience. It sort of came out and then just kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
It did really well at sort of like film festival screenings and stuff, but it never really got the attention or the acclaim I think this film really deserves.
Yeah. I will back that one up wholeheartedly. I never saw this before until sitting down and watching this for the review. And I suppose I had never wanted to watch it simply because of the rumour mill. You know, I had 1999, I was there, I was watching films. I mean, we're talking about the year The Matrix came out, you know, and that overshadowed pretty much any other film of that year. But I remember Bringing Out the Dead coming out and it kind of being panned. You know, people saying like, this film is not very good. Martin Scorsese has lost it. He should go back to just making movies about taxi drivers, you know, or his gangster movies and things like that, because this isn't him. You know, Nicolas Cage is just not doing very well in this movie. And I like I said, I was 17 in 1999, so I wasn't at an age, or a mental age, shall we say, where I could actually appreciate a film for what it is. And so Bringing Out the Dead just went under the radar. And years would go on. And I would see the poster every now and again. I'd maybe see the cover of the DVD and be like, oh, it's that movie with Nicolas Cage where he's a paramedic. I'm not interested in watching that. Mainly because why would I want to entertain myself by seeing a guy in the dregs of society, burnt out, depressed, in a black spot, you know, dealing with the underbelly of New York City and having to deal with all the horribleness in the world? How am I going to find that entertaining? Nope, movie, I just can't. Now I'm almost 40, 39, 40, and this movie is a fucking masterpiece. Now, I say this loosely before anybody jumps into the fucking comment section like I'm mad, that it's just like what they say in 12 Monkeys. The movie never fucking changes, but the person does. Your attitude does. Your mentality does. And so I was sat as this movie started and I'm thinking, what would 17-year-old me have thought when this movie first came out? I wouldn't have gone to see this in the cinema. But this is Martin Scorsese, like Gary says, one of the greatest directors of our time. You know, this is Nicolas Cage. Like, Nicolas fucking Cage, man. Like, he's done some good shit. The music, the camera angles, the cinematography, the script working, everything was just so real that after 2 hours of this movie, I had such a fucking good time.
Oh, hell yeah. You know? Now, one of my favourite scenes in this film is just the opening.
Yeah.
Like, it starts almost like a film noir, like a detective, you know, where he's narrating. He's got that monotone voice. And he's just explaining literally how burnt out he is right from the get-go.
He's got the 1,000-yard stare.
Completely, yeah. And, you know, I just love the way that the camera is framed, the lighting, the shadows, his voice. It is so very well edited. And this film immediately lets you know what the tone of this story is from the outset. Because that's one of the things about this film, is that it doesn't have a traditional narrative. It doesn't have a story structure of beginning, middle, end, so to speak. Because the film starts off and it's like, it's Thursday night.
Yeah.
Here we are on his shift.
On his shift. How long has this guy been working for? You know, we get to know snippets of Frank's character as the movie goes on, as he interacts with people. You know, he's driving fast. The lights of the streets are just all over. New York City. Like, I've not been many places in the world. Actually, I've not been anywhere in the world. But New York City is probably that one place I've always seen and kind of never wanted to go. You know, because it looks all beautiful on the top from standing back and seeing the whole city. But when you get down to the underbelly, when you get down to the darkness of the streets, you know, that's when you see reality. And Martin Scorsese just really hits it home really well, especially with Nicolas Cage. He explains, like, this is the neighborhood he grew up in. Yeah. And this is the neighborhood that he spent most of the time as a paramedic in. You know, and so he really, really just wants to save everybody. You know, I don't know anybody personally who's gone to medical college, but I understand that that's kind of the thing that you take that oath. Yeah. As soon as you walk through the door, that your job now is to save lives. And yet, when you're out in your ambulance, 90 miles per hour, cutting through all these streets, trying to save every drug dealer, drug addict, prostitute, gun victim, robbery victim, this person, that person, you can't save them all. And so part of me looked at Nicolas Cage and I'm like, man, is he suffering from post-traumatic stress?
Oh, absolutely. That is in almost in a nutshell what this film is about. Yeah. And the fact that so many of the people that he's tried to save have died in his arms, and there's one girl in particular, Rose.
Oh yes.
Who he failed to save.
Is haunting him.
And he's absolutely haunted by it, and that is why he is. You know, he says right from the get-go, all he needs to do is just save one more life. You know, just to get going again, to remember why he's enjoying doing this, and it's the rush of knowing that you've saved a life.
Oh yeah.
But you know, but in contrast to that, he has lost so many now, and now he's an insomniac. Yeah. Now he's an alcoholic. You know, and he's chasing that next rush, but he's stuck in a trap, because we find out later that he wants to lose his job. He's had enough, but his boss cannot fire him.
Oh man, those scenes, like the movie is. I was so wrong walking into this movie, so wrong to my younger self saying this movie would be dark and depressing, because it had so many brilliant comedy moments, and the boss moments were some of the best. Like, hey man, you're late for work again and you've been taking sick days. Well, you said you'd fire me. Well, I can't. Man, you promised you'd fire me.
I'll fire you tomorrow.
I'll fire you tomorrow, man. I can't. I need you, man. I need you, you know?
I had to put Marcus on 62 Young. Hey, you know he's not supposed to work 2 nights in a row. You know what we went for with that one?
You swore that you'd fire me if I came in late again. You swore.
I'll fire you tomorrow. Duty calls you, kid. The city needs you, please. I'll fire you sick time. I'll make it up to you, honest to God. Look at me. The next time I see you, I fire you.
We see Nicolas Cage first go out to the home of the Burkes. He's got his partner Larry, played by John Goodman, with him, and oh man, he's so the acting lineup in this is fucking amazing. I'll list them off now. You've got John Goodman, you've got Ving Rhames, you've got Patricia Arquette. Like I said, you've got Nicolas Cage, you've got Queen Latifah. you know, as a voice dispatcher. You've got fucking Tom Sizemore. You've got Mark Anthony playing another, like a crazy loon. And every one of them just, like, I can't understand how anybody could say that these guys weren't doing their best.
Oh, these are all fantastic actors, and they are all magnificent in their roles in this.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I know that these guys would go off to do better things. But, you know, when did they become good? Did they become good here and get better? Or were they, you know, not so great here, but then they got better doing this, but this was their start-off point? Because when he goes into the home and you see him and John Goodman get down, they're like, I'm like, wow, these guys know what they're doing. They've trained to be paramedics.
Yeah.
You know, they're getting the shirt, they're getting this guy ready. We see Mr. Burke on the floor. He's had a heart attack. And Patricia Arquette is his daughter, Mary. And you don't get it at this point, but this guy is dying. The dad is dying. He's fucking dead.
He's been dead for 20 minutes, according to the son.
Yeah. But the family don't want to lose him. They are so desperate to kind of hold on to him. But it's something that will come on later on in the movie that I kind of got. And I probably would only understand this now as an adult, as a parent myself, you know, that sometimes you just want to go, you know, because the son says, the brother of Patricia Arquette says, he started grasping his chest and then he locked himself in the bathroom. So he was wanting to die.
Well, I don't know.
But they saved him. No, because there's a few times in the movie where, like, they're trying to save this guy and he's, like, not wanting to. He doesn't want to.
Well, it seems like, because they end up taking him to the hospital, and of course the hospital depicts, the depiction of it is just like, this is not what you see in ER or Scrubs, you know, where you see all of these gurneys lined up wall to wall.
This is kind of like a normal fucking Thursday in
you've
hospital.
got the security guard outside, like, don't make me take off my sunglasses.
Yes.
Step back. Now, I've already told you two to step back. Now look, don't make me take off my sunglasses.
And the nurses are just like, we've got no space. You can't bring him in here. And it's like, this guy's had a heart attack. He needs to come in here. You're the closest hospital. Just like, it is crazy how overrun they are and understaffed they are. But then when Nicolas Cage keeps coming back to check up on him, because again, he's looking to have saved a life.
Yeah.
He keeps hearing voices. Now, we don't know that the film is called a supernatural thriller.
Yeah.
And because he does see ghosts. And he does, hallucinate because of his, sleep deprivation, because of his substance abuse.
Yeah.
The saved father is asking him not to defib him, not to resuscitate him, but to let him die. But that there is more about Nicolas Cage's character more than anything.
Well, actually, I think it's actually the dad. You know, this dad has lived in New York pretty much all of his life. He's raised a family here, you know, and he has been tough on his family. And even Patricia Arquette says at one point, you know, like, she starts not liking her dad. They haven't spoken in 3 years. She was a drug addict. She was strung out, but she's getting her life back together now, and she hasn't spoken to her dad. And now the fact that her dad is dying and he's locked himself in the bathroom, she says to Nicolas Cage, I was driving over and I was going to give him shit. But then when she got there, she just didn't know what to say. She just wanted to hear his voice again, you know? But the dad, and she even says later on, the dad was so tough on them because he had to be. And it's like Nicolas Cage says, the city does not discriminate. You know, this dad has lived for so long in this city with his family doing the best that he could. Why can't he die? Why can't he just die and just leave? He's done his fucking job. You know, he's done the best he could. Oh, you know, yeah, people would say he could have done better or worse or whatever. But he's done what he could up to that point, so that when you hear the voice, like, I was sat there like, is he really talking? And it's the way the eyes shoot. The eyes turn. I'm like, is that real? Is that a hallucination? Is he seeing the eyes moving, or is the dad actually saying to him, like, dude, seriously, just let me go. That's how you're gonna save me, is by letting me die.
Go to the bank, boy. Take out everything you can.
Mr. Burke,
I'm going. I've had enough.
Yeah, Gris, the security guard with the sunglasses. Oh my god, he was fucking awesome. And that's what made me laugh so much. I'm looking at this room full of, this hospital full of just people wounded and hurt. You know, it's just day in, day out, people just constantly coming in. There's no space, there's no resources, there's not enough nurses or doctors. And you've got this badass glasses wearing motherfucker. Don't make me take off my glasses. I'll throw you out. I want to bring up as well Ida Totoro, who played Nurse Cripp. She played Janice Soprano from The Sopranos. And even the little parts that people played in this, like these doctors, we don't hang around with very long because we're back out with Frank into the ambulance. But like I see these actors and I'm like, I buy it. I buy it that they're stressed out, they're tired, they're trying to do the best they can, they want to help everybody. The lady at the desk.
Yep.
You know, there's this lady at the desk and it's like, she's saying like, so you're telling me that you've been on a 5-day crack binge and you want us to give you some medicine to make you feel better so that you can go back out and get more crack?
There'll be another sequence where she's got the alcoholic. He's like, oh, you've just been on a bender and you've fallen over and hurt yourself. So now you've come here to sober up so that you can go out and do it again. And then, you know, when he's back in the ambulance and they get that dreaded call. I think it's Martin Scorsese who's actually the dispatcher
he is
voice.
The dispatcher voice, mate.
And he's like, oh, we've got your favourite.
Oh,
it's
no.
Mr. O. Mr. O. It's the stinky one. It's the homeless dude that smells and always needs to be taken to this one hospital when he's hungover, when he's drunk to be resuscitated and looked after.
And but that's the crazy thing. It's like my mind immediately was just like, at this point, like, why are you helping this guy? He's clearly an alcoholic. He's clearly homeless. He's clearly infected with shit. He's clearly dying. Why would we waste the resources on him? And then the other part of my brain was like, shut the fuck up. That's what these people do. You know, these people save or try to do their best to save lives and save people. And so, yeah, these paramedics hate picking up Mr. O for the 17th time, maybe that week, and taking him to the hospital to get his stomach pumped. But they can't just leave his fucking body lying in the street to die. That's even worse. They've got to do what they can to help him. And it's down to him to try to help himself, which a lot of the times they don't. I love that bit where they're driving along with their heads out the window.
Yeah, because they can't breathe.
They can't breathe because of the smell.
Oh no, take that stinky ass motherfucking boat-ridden skill out of my face.
Johnny, welcome back. Good to see you.
I mean, it brings us to Noel, played by Mark Antony. Noel is another one of these characters who is like, we find out from Patricia Arquette's character that her and Noel grew up in the same neighborhood, but at some point in Noel's life he was shot in the head by some drug dealers and in a coma for 3 months. And when he came out of the coma, he was just crazy. And like, I missed the reason why they couldn't give him a cup of water.
Well, there was also this new drug that's circulating around New York
Red
at the
Death,
time, this
yeah.
Red Death, and they're not sure whether he's on it or not. And so, for a medical reason, they can't give him any water because of the way his body is absorbing it or using it.
I was just like, well, there's something medical there that if he drinks too much, he's going to die. So they're trying to stop him, but he's constantly there. Like the first time Mr. Burke comes in, he's tied to the bed. And it's like an ongoing joke. I want to say it's an ongoing joke, but then, like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I saw it as a joke and it's not. But it constantly happens. Frank will go back to the hospital and he'll untie Noel and Noel will run off.
It might be funny to us watching it in the film, but for those that are living it, it's just that constant irritation. It's the fact that no matter how hard they try, they cannot fix this person.
Just like Mr. O.
Yeah, they cannot help him. They just got to keep doing it and keep doing it.
Just got to keep doing it. And yeah, like Gary said, there's a lot of these people that are going into cardiac arrests because of this Red Death new brand of heroin. And we get the shooting of the drug dealer played by Michael K. Williams. Now, I've just recently come across this actor because I've been going on a bit of a binge of The Wire. He played Omar in The Wire, and I believe he played another prominent figure in Boardwalk Empire. So I know this guy is like a really good actor. And that moment where he's lying on the floor, he's been shot in a shootout with some rival drug dealers, and he doesn't want to die, and he's in the back of the van with Frank and Noel, and Noel wants to die.
Yeah.
You know, and you're just I was wrong to find that funny, but at the same time sad and contradictive of life itself. That there's this guy who's trying to do the best that he can to make some money. He's been shot and he's going to die. Where this guy over here, he doesn't really give a shit. And if they could trade places, they probably would.
I'm going to the army when it's safe. I don't want to die.
No, I want to die. I'm the one.
You're not gonna die.
What did you say?
Shut up. You're gonna die. He's not. Got it?
But they can't. And Frank's just like, no, you need to hold his hand. You need to hold his hand because he doesn't want to die alone. And he does.
Yeah, they eventually pull up at the hospital. He opens up the back, and yeah, the drug dealer has died from his gunshot wounds. And then Noel, you know, he's like, the hospital's where he's supposed to be going now to die, but he just runs off.
He just bolts it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we get lots of really, like, I mean, this is the romance sub part of the story where Nicolas Cage's Frank is really looking out for Mary, because she's lingering around the hospital waiting for her dad to recover or to get news about the operation, or whether he's going to get moved to intensive care or anything like that. And so they end up sharing cigarettes together. At one point, they end up sharing a pizza together. And it's just nice little bits of dialogue that really helps us understand these people.
Yeah, because in my mind, Frank wants some kind of relationship. He wants to be part of something. Like, we find out that he's divorced. He was in a relationship, but she couldn't handle his lifestyle because this is his life. He's an EMT and he wants to save people. And you know, his relationship has ended, but now all he's got is his job, which is now driving him to kind of just be broken in the mind. And it's another one of those things of he wanting to save somebody. So can he save Mary?
Yes.
You know, and can he save her dad? Can he save Noel? And you start to realize that all these people are strangely, intricately entwined in their tiny little lives. And it started making me think of the city itself. Like I said, if we were working in this hospital and we were seeing these people constantly come in on a weekly, day-to-day basis, you would know them. You would get to know them and their families and their people, and that's a lot of emotional baggage that you end up taking on that sometimes you can't take home and just talk about. But Patricia Arquette starts to kind of relapse.
Yeah.
And she ends up, well, she walks right past Frank when he comes to the hospital one day, and you kind of think that's a bit weird because they've been talking, but she comes blanks him.
But he was also in like a civvy uniform at the time as well. So
she kind of wouldn't really have recognized him. But he follows her to this building, and she's like, "Oh, I'm going up there. I'm only going in for 15 minutes. Could you come in and get me because there's been some trouble?" And he's like, "Yeah, okay." And she wanders into this place. And he tries to convince her not to go in there at first, but she's like, "Oh, don't be such a cop."
Well, yeah, he also says, "I'll just come in with you, but he's forced to wait outside.
Yeah. And so he waits outside, and then when he finally gets to go in there, we find out that this is the oasis of Cy, the drug dealer, played by the always amazing Cliff fucking Curtis. When I saw him pull up, you know, I was like, immediately I was like, "Ooh, it's Uncle Bully," but then I was like, is this the same year that Virus came out?
Right.
You know, like this is Cliff Curtis. I know Cliff Curtis is a really good actor, but the thing is, and like I said, mentally thinking about this film, Cliff Curtis has always been a good actor. You know, so every role that you probably saw this guy in was just.
He was really good here as well, and you know, compared to everything else we'd seen in the film so far, everything like the music playing,
relaxed,
the lighting, and he's just like, "Come with me, look, there's Mary. She's in bed. She's finally sleeping. Yes, I've given her something, but she wanted to.
She wanted it,
you know. And so come here. Look, all these other people sleeping. All these people have come here for shelter from the chaos of New York City. So here, take this, smoke this joint." Chill with us and sleep, and then we do get a dream sequence.
Man, I'm the Japanese Sandman. Whoa.
I am the Japanese Sandman.
You looking like
And we get to see the sequence that's really haunting Frank because we kept seeing the face of Rose on all of the passers-by in New York when he's in the ambulance. Like, people would keep turning it and it would be the face of Rose.
Yeah.
And so it flashes back to when him and Larry were trying to save Rose in the first place in the snow, and we find out that maybe he couldn't get the tube in right, or he couldn't find the right thing or the right tool, or they were too late arriving. But it's filmed in such a fantastic way that when the actors filmed it, they filmed it in reverse, and then when the film is played, it's played in reverse, because all the snow is not settling, it's rising.
I noticed the awkwardly janky movements that they were doing, and
it's when you notice the snow rising up the frame.
I was paying too much attention to them.
And it really captures that dreamlike memory kind of setting, and then of course he hears the scream, and then he sharp turns, and then Nicolas Cage has a Nicolas Cage.
Frank, where are you going? You're making a mistake. Yeah, you go. Okay, that's good. You go in there. Yeah, you go in there, lie down.
Now, it's a very subtle one compared to what Nicolas Cage is capable of.
Oh, yeah.
It really brings everything to that moment where he's having an outburst, finally.
I honestly thought, when I went to start this movie, it was just going to be Nicolas Cageisms all over the place. Like, this might have been the birthplace of Nicolas Cageisms, But he's actually really quite mellow.
It always comes down to the director that knows the talent they're working with.
Yeah, exactly. There are some crazy shots that he has. Like, there's this one shot that he shoots a look at Tom Sizemore in the van where he's got this big smile on his face turn. But it's so brief that you could just miss it. And a lot of the times he's just... He kind of reminds me of Edward Norton from Fight Club,
Edward Norton was the first person they wanted to play the part in the film.
Just the Jack's insomnia is just bleeding through, especially on Nicolas Cage. And I got to bring up now, the whole sequence with Ving Rhames, I thought was fucking fantabulous. Ving Rhames, the preacher.
So much energy, so much positivity coming from him.
It was actually surprising to see him with hair.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I just love the way he flirts with the dispatcher.
Yeah. Or the fact that he wants to drive down the streets to look at prostitutes.
Right, yeah.
And there's some days you just can't tell anymore. And it's got that weird sequence where Nicolas Cage is looking out and you see the pregnant woman, but then she has Rose's face. And then she's like, "Why did you kill me?" And he's like, "I didn't kill you." And Ving Rhames is like, "Well, I'm glad for that, Frank. Thanks."
They get a call to go to the nightclub because, again, that Red Death has been going around, and so this kid had a heroin overdose or something. Yeah. He's basically dead.
He's dead.
And they get there, and he's just like, "Everybody clear around." And you see Nicolas Cage get down, and he gives him the adrenaline, and he's just like looks up to give him the signal.
Yeah,
and he's like, "Okay, pray with me, children. Everybody grab my hands. Praise Jesus. We're gonna raise up." What's he called? Frederick. We're going to raise Freddy. No, it's Frederick. We're going to raise up. I'll be banging, Lord. Raise up. I'll be banging. And then, of course, the adrenaline goes in. He shoots up and he's like, "It's a miracle." Yeah. It's awesome. Such an awesome scene.
Yeah, it was just so good because it's their way of putting the fear of God into these kids, for trying the shit that they shouldn't be trying. But then in my mind, I'm like, yes, but you got to remember what got these kids to this place in the first place. From what we see out in the streets, you'd be lucky if you survive past the age of 10 sometimes, let alone 18 to a record deal. But they have that crash.
Well, first they get called to another important location.
Oh, right.
Where there's a woman giving birth.
Oh,
and when they manage to get up there, and they're just like, and he's just like, "No, we're both virgins. We've been lived together for 2 years. We've never had sex. We've never done drugs. We don't drink." And he's just like, "Well, how come she's pregnant?" And she gives birth to twins.
Yeah.
And and of course Ving Rhames is like, "It's a miracle. It's a miracle birth. This
one of them's lived though. I mean, the one that Ving Rhames has got has lived.
Yeah.
But the one that Nicolas Cage has got is died.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but you get that. I thought that sequence was amazingly filmed. Him running into the hospital with this baby wrapped around in tinfoil, trying to resuscitate it, and then you get all the nurses and the doctors run in, and you know, like that was one of the beautiful things about the movie that, like, sometimes I don't think a lot of people. I know sometimes I don't, but I have had some interactions with medical staff where it's just like, you got to remember these people are real people dealing with this all the friggin' time. But when they switch on, it's like muscle memory.
Oh yeah.
You know, they know that, you know, they get all the equipment. They want to save this baby, you know, and they aren't able to. But they end up in a crash. And Nicolas Cage is like, fuck you! He's like, fuck you, Marcus, you're not doing this to me again, I'm out of here, see you later. And like I said, we've been following this over a course of a couple of days. So Thursday we had Larry, John Goodman. Friday we had Ving Rhames. And then Saturday we get Frank's old partner, Tom Sizemore. I like Tom Sizemore. Like, I know he's probably controversial. I know he had a bit of a bad time back in the late 90s, early 2000s, but like when I see him in films, he's got like this look on his face, like he's a crazy ass motherfucker.
Oh, for sure.
You know, and this movie just kind of allows him just to do that. We'd already had a couple of run-ins with him talking to Noel and Frank and saying like, you know what, you know, I'm going to fuck that guy up one day. I'm not going to let him get away with this. And you're like, oh, Jesus, this guy's really aggressive. And when they first initially get in the van with each other, Nicolas Cage is like lost.
Yeah, he's had enough. I mean, he's there. He's injecting himself with vitamins, adrenaline. He's got the oxygen mask.
He's sat there with the 2 IV bags and the bag on. He's like, man, this ain't doing anything. I need a beer.
Yeah. He's just like, look, we cannot stop. Whatever you do not stop this ambulance. We just got to keep going.
Yeah.
If we stop, we die.
Yeah.
And they end up getting called to Mr. O.
Oh God, yeah. But they go to get called to Mr. O, but it's like, no, we're not going to go to him tonight. There's something else big. And they get dispatched to, well, we don't know at first. It's a shooting, but we also hear that somebody's obviously jumped out of a window. And when we get there, we see this guy hanging on the railings of a balcony. The railings are in his stomach. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? And when we get there, when we get upstairs,
got that I mean, it's an awesome shot where the water is like flooded the hallway, but it's just the way the blood is just centered, because, and then when you see the female body there with the darker red blood splat, you're just like, it's very meticulous in the way it's been set up.
It's Psy's apartment.
It is.
The Oasis has been hit, and we'd already got a bit of information from Psy explaining that him and Tiger, his buddy, they were going to get some shit on these Red Death guys, and they were going to fuck them up. But obviously they got hit first. And I did kind of feel bad about the girl.
Yeah.
You know, she only had a brief part, but when we met her, she'd been nice and friendly and kind of relaxed. And now here she is lying in the doorway with a bullet hole in her head. You know, and we go into the apartment, and we realised that Tiger, the kind of computer guy we'd seen, he jumped out the window and broken both his legs on the balcony below and dragged himself in to call the cops. And Psy had tried to do the same thing and jumped only a little bit further, and he's the one hanging on the balcony. And I thought Cliff Curtis was fucking amazing in this whole sequence. The way him and Frank are talking while the fire department are trying to cut the railings off. Yeah. You know, to get him free.
And he's just like, hey, remember that $10 you owe me from earlier? It's like, you keep that, man. You're going to save my life. And it is kind of beautiful when, you know, when the fire department are cutting away the fence and the bar's heating up and all the sparks are flying out across New York.
Yes.
And again, the hallucinations, I guess, because it turns into a fireworks display.
Yeah. You know, and the crowd are down the bottom cheering as well, because when the railings do give way, Frank and Psy go over the edge, and you're like, oh shit! And luckily they'd hooked Frank up, but Frank has grabbed Psy. And when they get into the hospital, Psy turns to Frank and basically goes, you saved my life.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy shit, you know, that's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one that he got. But we also have the situation with Tom Sizemore. Like both of them want to break something Like
they're angry at everything still.
Yeah, you know, and is this after he's resuscitated the dad? Like the dad in the hospital, he's attempted to die again, and so they've resuscitated him. And we keep hearing that he's been resuscitated like 12 to 15 times. And at that point, I was like, let the motherfucker go. Like, I've already made plans with my family. If I start to go a little bit, just take me outside, you know, deal with me. Don't resuscitate me fucking 12 to 17 times. A night.
Yeah.
You know, and the dad even says to him, like, don't do it, Frank, don't do it. And Frank actually tries not to, but the nurse pushes it away. So Frank is all annoyed, and him and Tom Sizemore, they're driving out, let's break something. And Tom's just like, no, we need a reason. We can't just break stuff.
But they end up spotting Noel with a baseball bat breaking stuff. He's breaking car windows.
Yeah.
And Tom Sizemore's like, this motherfucker, I am sick to death of seeing this motherfucker doing what he's doing and getting away with it. So let's take him out. Here, you go and talk to him about baseball. I'll sneak around behind him and you push him over.
Yeah.
And so that's what happens. Cage starts talking about baseball. He ends up getting the baseball bat from him, but he doesn't push him over when he gets the opportunity to.
No.
Noel realizes that he's being played and legs it.
Yeah, that's it. Well, he breaks the window. He breaks the window just to see how it feels. And Tom's like, "What are you doing?" Because that's a bad thing. And they
split up to chase him down.
That walk down the steps into the basement was just like the sounds, the sights, the smells. You know, like, maybe it's me, maybe as I'm getting older, you know, but I kind of like seeing that because that's real.
Yeah.
You know, I know on the other flip side, you know, you've got your clean house and your happy families and things like that. But let's be honest, people, this is New York City. I know there's a lot of cities just like New York who have got corners of darkness like this, but, like, you don't really even see a lot, but you hear babies crying. Like, he looks down at one point. I wonder what the fuck he was looking at. And at one point, he looks down at some rubbish and realizes underneath the rubbish is a person.
Yeah.
Because you can see the eyes moving. And he comes across Noel being beaten the fuck out of by Tom Sizemore. And he stops Tom Sizemore and he goes, "No, I'm going to save Noel. I'm going to save him." And he rushes him to the hospital to hopefully save him. And I think it's like when he gets back to the hospital again, he gets told that, oh yeah, that's right, because
he realizes the bed's
empty. Yeah, the dad's been moved up to ICU, and I think Frank at this time has had his realization about the dad wanting to die.
Right.
Because
and so he heads up there. He clears away the nurse. He goes in there, and you can tell that he's obviously premeditated this. He knows exactly what he's doing because he starts taking the cables and attaching them to himself.
Did you notice who the nurse was at the table?
It was a nurse from Scrubs.
Yes, I was like, oh, look, it's Carla. She must have quit this job.
Got transferred.
But yeah, well, he's already got the pads.
Yeah, exactly. So he knew exactly. He had the setup. You know, he takes the oxygen stuff to trick the machine to think he's still going.
Yeah,
and he lets the dad just peacefully go.
And when the doctors come in, they kind of just accept it. You know, we were trying to save his life, but it was going to give out. And I kind of liked how it would, like, we'd already had the moment where Nicolas Cage had gone back to Patricia Arquette's apartment and he'd settled down, and it was a really nice moment. Him washing
with the
his
soap,
face.
when he saw all three soaps, and just it made him feel human and alive and normal for a little while.
I gotta admit, I actually listened to him at that point, and I thought to myself, you know what? I might use some of my wife's soap just for once. You know, because it was the way he said, like, I haven't been in a woman's bathroom in a while. You know, and we'd seen his apartment, and his apartment was just like. Nobody should have to live like that. It's when he goes back to Patricia Arquette's apartment for the second time to tell her about her dad passing away, that she was kind of accepting of it.
And she'd had like a few days at least to prepare for this news, but she was fine with it. She accepted that was an inevitability.
Yeah, and then she invites him up the stairs, and they sit on the bed. And he starts to sleep. And I thought it was kind of weird at first, but I got it. The kind of religious white light.
Well, that white light had been apparent in the movie throughout the entire film.
Really, had it?
Like there's moments when it's like the shot is just like overlit,
right,
and
right.
like and everybody seems to have this glowing white energy around them.
I did
and then
notice
in
a
other
couple
scenes,
times.
it's not there. I mean, like the scene where he's after Noel and he's walking down, like he is bathed in white light as he descends down into the darkness.
Yes.
The sequence when he's saving Cy.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and you've got these massive back white light behind him, like the spotlights as well. So that white light is definitely there for a reason. It's not a happy accident.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's almost like a transcendence. It's almost heavenly.
Yes,
It is almost
yeah.
like, and it is, I guess, because that, you know, the camera angle just sits there as that white light bathes them in entirety. It is almost like a happy-ish ending, a heavenly
Happiest.
ending.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it makes you think that these two might actually become a couple and be okay together.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
We never know.
It's not your fault. No one asked you to suffer. That was your idea.
Well, you know, there are so many great moments in the film. It has such a good ending.
Yeah.
What are your favourite scenes from the film, Iain?
Man, I had a few, and I had to kind of stop myself from writing down every single sequence that I came across as favourite scenes because I was just having such a great time. Any sequence with any music playing. Oh my god, I added like 6 or 7 more songs to my own playlist simply from this film alone because I thought it was going to be depressing. I thought it was going to be too dark, and yet the music just gave you an uplifting feel like I can do this. Yeah, I might have to walk and wade through shit, but I'm going to do it without an incredibly good soundtrack. One of the most amazing shots in the whole entire movie I found, not just the fireworks sequence, but was the wide shot when Nicolas Cage is taking the drug at Size. And you've got Cy stood by the aquarium, and you've got the girl sat on the table. And I'm like, wow, this is a really incredibly huge shot. Like, I'm guessing that this is going to fade away, and it started to fade away, and he comes walking up. I am the Japanese Sandman. I'm like, okay, Cliff, you're freaking me out now. And it just leads into that fucking amazing dream sequence that he has. I loved the sequence where every person's face was roses.
Yeah, yeah.
I absolutely love that. Like, it started off small through the movie, couple faces here and there, and then there's this one just shot where every girl,
it's even every man, every person,
every
in
person
the road, yeah.
is Rose, and he even sees her face at the end when he's talking to Patricia Arquette, but she forgives him, and you're like, that's really good. Like I said, Michael K. Williams playing the drug dealer, I thought he played it really, really well, you know, and just like I could list everything. I'm not going to. All I'm going to say is the city itself felt authentic. The actors themselves made it all feel authentic. The storylines just all really molded really brilliantly well. So yeah, the film.
Oh yeah, hell yeah! I guess there's a couple of standout moments. Like I always laugh out loud with the hospital guard. Don't make me take off my sunglasses.
Oh, Chris is a badass.
He is so good. I also loved Ving Rhames. I love the way the camera moves in on him when he delivers. The first step is love, and the second is mercy.
Yes.
It's the way he's got his cigar, the way he's backlit, that devilish grin on his face.
Yeah, man.
Just brilliant. Really loved that part. I guess for me, again, that one of the strongest scenes is the opening. The first sort of 4 to 5 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
It just sets up the tone, the style, and the pace, and it gets you ready for the next 2 hours. I just think it's just really well done. And of course, I think the whole film is fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, do you recommend Bringing Out the Dead?
Man, I wholeheartedly recommend this movie, but you as the individual have to kind of really ask yourself if you want to watch it. If you don't want to watch it, don't watch it now. Wait until maybe you're a little bit more older, a little bit more wiser. Maybe you might have a bit of an understanding a bit more. Maybe you haven't watched any Martin Scorsese movie ever before. I wouldn't say start with this one. I would work throughout his whole career and don't miss any. Because it's fucking Martin Scorsese. Don't miss any. of Nicolas Cage's. Every actor in this movie I just thought was absolutely brilliant. And I wasn't too sure if that's because I've seen them over the years do great performances and this just amplified that, or if they've always just been that fucking good. The film will twinge on your heart. It will make you laugh. It will make you feel incredibly awkward in places, but it's reality. You know, you might not get it now. And that's what I mean. If you go, oh, well, Iain says I should watch the movie, I'm going to sit down and watch it, and you don't understand it, you won't get it. But if that happens, come back to it in 10 years. Watch it again and maybe you'll understand it. Like I said, I never would have ever have watched this film for any personal reasons. But now I have. I think it's one of the greatest movies ever.
Oh, hell yeah. This is an absolute must-watch movie, and I highly, highly recommend it, as this is a forgotten gem and has been criminally overlooked. And if you have seen this film before, I recommend a second viewing, as in my opinion, this film is even better on repeat viewings. I truly believe this is one of Scorsese's best films, and it ranks as one of my personal favourites, as there is so much you can read into this film. The philosophy, the deeper meanings, layers of the characters, the internal battle, dealing with grief and trauma, depicting insomnia, alcohol and substance abuse, while realistically capturing the lives of those paramedics who do burn out when facing death and pain on a daily basis. The performances by all the cast are fantastic, believable, and fascinating. The editing, cinematography, and lighting are top-tier excellence, matched with great pacing, storytelling, and drama, coupled with great memorable songs. This film is a Scorsese masterpiece. Now, it certainly doesn't have a traditional narrative, and the dark tone and humour might be too much for some viewers, but it really serves this slice-of-life story of a paramedic who has seen too much, to whom saving a life is the ultimate rush. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.